So, the Manor House is an interesting place in my second book, Beauty Redeemed. It is kind of like, I believe it's Vanity Fair in Pilgrim's Progress when he's going on his journey and they get distracted. And Vanity Fair is kind of just this place where all of your desires can be fulfilled. Basically, you can eat all the food you want, you can buy all the stuff you want, not just different things. And so, it was kind of a reflection of that or a nod to that in this book when I did it. Um, and it's just kind of an interesting place. It does dwell in the spring realm. And so, doing that, I kind of wanted to show that not everything is as it seems. Like, just because it's the realm of light doesn't mean it's without its darkness. And so, it's just a very interesting idea that it's in the spring realm to start with, but it's kind of just its own enigma of a place. And so when people find the spring realm or find the manor house, it is under the cloak of darkness. And so you have to actually have a tie to the darkness in order to find it. And it is only revealed when the moon is up. And so as soon as the moon comes up, it is suddenly revealed out of the shadows. And once the sun rises, it is gone. And so it kind of just shows kind of like our draws to darkness and the path that leads to that darkness. And in order to enter the manor house, you have to have a desire to enter it and go in. And it's your own free will and choice. Nobody forces anyone to go in there, and you can't actually force anyone to go in there. And so kind of just showing how we sometimes create our own prisons by giving into those desires that we have, or we make those choices to dwell in the darkness or fulfill those desires in our own. And when you enter the house, it's kind of an interesting thing too. Creating it in a world of magic really worked for me in creating this house, but it's kind of interesting because you see it at times where it's maybe like empty and it's not as opulent as it is on nights of when there's like these grand parties and there's people there all the time. And you kind of get the sense of a blur between reality and what's not reality. Because in the manor house, things kind of shift or change just depending on the whims of the people that are dwelling there. But even when you see like the opulent parties that are thrown at this house, you're not ever really sure which people are really there or which people are just there because it's come out of somebody's imagination or desire to have that person there. And so in this manor house, you have rooms full of like gems and coins and food and rich royal food and all the things and dancing and music and anything that you could want. So people that come to this house come because they have that secret desire within them, and they can enter because they want to give into that desire. And the job of the house and the mistress of the house, Lady Roxana, is to give people those desires and to fulfill those desires. And so it is kind of just like this place of sin, basically. But it kind of just shows how we are when we go to those places of sin. We go to those places of secret desire in our hearts. And sometimes those desires aren't necessarily secret and we don't care. And sometimes it's something that brings us shame and guilt and we struggle with it and we don't know how to fix it or get out of it. And sometimes we don't even feel like we can leave or get out of that situation or that whatever darkness and struggle, but it is something that we still have the choice and control over. And so another interesting thing about the manor house is that you have to make the choice to enter, but it's also up to you to leave. The house has no hold on you. You are the one who's in control of when you leave. But like sin and like Satan does to us all the time, a lot of times it looks very appealing, it looks very beautiful, and it draws us in and it makes us think that's what I want. That's what I want, desire. That's what I want fulfilled in my life. And so we go there to find that fulfillment and to find fulfillment of those desires and to find those things that we've always wanted. And we live there for a while and we are okay with it sometimes for a while, and we give into that life because we're like, hey, this is fun. This is everything I've ever wanted. I'm rich. I'm famous. I have everything I could ever want or need. And in the end, it turns out that those things aren't as shiny as it seems. You find out in the manor house that none of this is really real. It's just kind of all just visions and just kind of temporary fulfillment of those desires. And just like in life, we all reach those points where nothing is actually fulfilling us. We may find temporary joy and happiness in those things for a while and pleasure in those things, but it's not going to last. And so that was kind of my whole idea behind creating the manor house, and kind of just that whole enigma of what it is, and kind of just giving kind of a real picture of kind of what that looks like in our lives, and how sin can look appealing and it can look desirous, and we can give into it and we can live in that life for a long time or a short while, but then it will lose its joy, it will lose its pleasure, it will lose its shininess, and it will become tarnished, and it will become old and falling apart and decrepit, and it won't be what you thought it was supposed to be in the beginning. And you also see where it kind of just turns on you in some ways. And I feel like that's kind of how it is when we give in to temptations and desires. Sometimes initially it's great and we enjoy it and it's fun and there's no problems with it. But the longer you live in that lifestyle and in that life of darkness or in that life of sin, it starts to turn on you, and it starts to make you feel ashamed. It starts to fill you with guilt. It starts to beat you down and make you wish you could leave, but make you feel like you can't leave it. And it kind of slowly takes hold of you and takes control of you. In reality, we have the control over it, and we can step out of that darkness, but it is very hard to step out of that darkness. And there is a point when Julianna is in the house and she tells Darian that she doesn't know how to leave. He tells her, you have the choice to leave. The manor house has no hold on you. You can leave whenever you want. And she literally just tells him, I don't know how to leave. And so a lot of times sin can distract us. It can pull us away from the people we love. It can pull us away from the truths and the light. And when Julianna is in the house, you kind of see her struggling with this. She goes through these different points of time where sometimes she's has very good clarity of mind, and she's able to remember her family and remember her parents and her friends and her life in the spring realm and even the mage's son. Other times that's kind of just a blurred dream of her past, and she doesn't really remember those things. The room she lives in, it's just like a fake facade of the spring realm. It's full of like beautiful flowers but in her window, but her window is fake. It's not the real sun outside. It's not real flowers, and it's just kind of a facade. And that's basically what sin is. It's a facade, and it can look appealing, it can look attractive, it can look exactly like what we want, but it's not. And so that was kind of my idea and heart behind creating this manor house in the woods, and kind of also showing like not everything is always what it seems. The spring realm is the realm of light, and yet it has a place like this in it. And so there's always going to be darkness, there's always going to be light, and it's always up to us to make those choices, whether we live in the kingdom of light or the kingdom of darkness.